Previously on BizStation India.
So both me and my brother, we started this company, and we've sort of been involved in creative stuff since I can remember. We try to figure out how can we sort of make the time that kids are spending to be more educational, more nourishing for the child. I think failing is a very, very good thing because the more you fail, the more you learn the wrong things to do. So.
Hi everyone, I'm Yumeka and this is BizStation India. For our show, we invite business owners from various different industries in New Delhi, India, and hear about their successful, inspiring stories of how they built their own business and became their own boss. So from last episode, we invited this young, talented man who created educational app Super. And today we would like to focus more on his business side and let's hear about his stories. So let's welcome Arnav Mukherjee, co-founder of TOKO Innovation.
Hello. Thank you for having me
Welcome
again.
back, yes. So let's get to know about your business.
Okay.
What do you guys do? Tell me.
So the idea behind Super School is that it's a digital primary school. What we noticed is that a lot of kids nowadays are moving online. They're actually spending more time online than any other group, and this is growing. So last year, I think India surpassed China as a country with the most child internet users. And if you see even YouTube, right? If you remove music from the top, then the second fastest growing and the second biggest category is kids music, kids rhymes, kids content. That's why YouTube released YouTube Kids recently as well. Now the problem is a twofold problem, right? Because you have parents as one user group, because obviously the kids aren't like buying the tablet or whatever themselves, and you have the kid. Now kids are obsessed with watching stuff on YouTube and obsessed with videos. Yeah, exactly. So now for a parent that's a big problem, right? Because if you take the phone away or the tablet away, the kid's just gonna cry. But if you leave the kid on the tablet, they just sort of get this glazed look and they're like, not really absorbing anything, understanding anything. They're just watching the same rhyme on repeat all the time. So we try to figure out how can we sort of make the time that kids are spending to be more educational, more nourishing for the child. Because some people can say, okay, we're gonna reduce the time that kids are spending online. It's sort of the argument that people had about TV back in the day. Like, don't watch TV. But we all know that parents failed with that tactic, right? We all watch TV. So the good thing about online tablets or mobile phone is that you can actually make the experience much more interactive. So it's been proven that when kids are interacting with content, they absorb far more than if they're just listening or reading. So we sort of went with that idea and we thought, okay, can we do something quite interesting here? So when we looked at the market, kids actually do two things online. They watch videos and play games. Now most of the games they're playing are like sort of Subway Surfer or simple games which are not really educational. They're just playing it, not really learning much. So we thought, can we take those same games, which kids love, and add learning there on top? So that was sort of the basic idea behind it. Now we've actually made about 52 games. We keep adding new content every week, which covers all of kindergarten, preschool, and first grade syllabus. So we looked at the syllabus of India. We matched it with the Common Core curriculum in the US. And then we also added a few more like extracurricular stuff like music and other things like that. So I'll give you an example of what I was saying. Right? So we have like Subway Surfer, it's a running game, right? You run, it's a side to side runner, endless runner. So we added a layer where you can learn about healthy and unhealthy food. So you're supposed to avoid unhealthy food, and when you eat something healthy like carrots, it says carrots are good for eyes. So we use the voice to sort of keep the learning going on while the kid is just playing the same game.
Yeah.
So similarly, you have like those sort of Candy Crush sort of games. So we use that to teach kids about animals and their sounds. So we all know, like, you know, dog does barking. But then what does barking sound like? What does a rhino sound like? Right? So it's not enough to tell you what a rhino's sound word is in English, but I want you to hear it. So we have like this game which teaches them animals. So they swipe. So if they swipe like 3 in a row, then it says rhino. And if they swipe more than that, it will say rhino and the sound of a rhino. So all these sort of things, we just take the same game a lot of the time and add it there. Another thing we do is that we look at sort of Montessori activities that teachers and preschool teachers are doing. And we try to model it to understand, okay, can we make like some game or interactive concept out of it? So we try to keep it very simple, but there's like, you know, those activities where you're supposed to put shapes in different holes. So we sort of have a game where like these shapes are falling down a hill and then you have to like swipe and put it in. So the idea is that if kids keep spending time on our app, then without realizing it, they'll learn like a lot of the things they need to learn for school. So we primarily focus on English and math, because, you know, every parent in the world nowadays wants the kids to learn English. So even in Japan, it's a big need.
It is.
So that's why we focus on that. So we had like these games which teach them. Then it's a sort of threefold process. So first we introduce a concept with videos or ebooks. So the kid just understands what it is. Then he can play a game to practice it. And then we sort of have sort of an assessment software that we made. So we made one for math and one for English. They're sort of like Duolingo, if you know the language app. It has different sort of activities, interactive activities, which the kid can do, and it is supposed to learn and also identify the patterns so that we know that they're learning. So I think like this threefold process works really well. So since we've launched, we've seen that kids are spending about 15 minutes on average on our app. And for loyal users, so let's say a kid who spend more than 30 sessions, they spend up to half an hour on our app every day. So that way we can see that it's working, and every time we add more content, the time goes up. So that's basically what we focus on, and we think like there's not much on the market doing it. Before, actually, let's say the early 2000s, a lot of websites had come up with similar concepts. Now the problem for those websites was that they focused on Flash technology, which you can't use nowadays on the mobile. So some of them try to do like have a modified web browser to do it, but it's a really bad experience. So we made it all HTML5, so it can be on mobile, and you can keep adding more content, so that it can be like a platform essentially. So you can keep adding, removing content, and we also put in a download feature. So in Japan, it's probably not a big problem, but in India and our other markets like Philippines, for example, sometimes people don't have access to internet very easily. And mostly a lot of usage actually comes when you're outside with the child and the child suddenly starts crying. So the parent really wants the app at that point of time. So we have a download feature so that they can download all the content later offline as well.
Okay, that's cool. Wow, that was a lot of information. But I agree that kids spend a lot of time on tablets and phones.
They're totally getting
sometimes
addicted.
hours and hours. Like
the funny thing, though, I'll tell you, is that so I have a relative, so she's like maybe 2 years old, right? Her parents swear that she spends only 1 hour every day on the phone.
Do that,
But every single time I've seen her, she's been on the phone. So clearly she's spending much more than 1 hour every day, but her parents are like, no, we restrict it. They don't. They can't. Even if I go, she'll like snatch my phone and she'll start watching on the side. Then totally.
So it's better to spend it on educational matters.
They're going to spend the time anyway.
Also fun, So another thing you're working on right now is interactive marketing, right? Can you tell me more about the current work with Nickelodeon?
So actually the good thing through this whole process of making games is that we had to nail down a way to make content very fast. So that gives us a big advantage in the market. And so then we thought, okay, if we can make content fast, can we even collaborate with some companies and help them make content? So Nickelodeon actually makes a lot of games, and they're gonna, I think, launch a whole new part of the website which will have HTML5 games. So we're making a lot of content for them. We're also looking to partner with a few companies to do something interesting. So, for example, in hospitals, we're trying to get this sort of VR experience to reduce the pain of vaccinations. So we're pitching to a few hospitals, and we're working also, soon we might be working with Woot, which is sort of Netflix of India, to launch their Woot Kids app. Because they want like some interactive educational content in that as well. So we're looking to partner with different companies to do exciting things. Another interesting thing we're looking at is liquor marketing. So liquor marketing always uses surrogate marketing in India. So they try, because they can't just say like buy whiskey as an ad. So they have to say like buy cassettes and CDs of this brand, or like buy something else. So a good thing that's been going on around the world is that games, because a lot of people are spending so much time online, right? So games have become a very good way for a brand to engage with customers. So it's being used as surrogate marketing nowadays. So we've come up with a few ideas of how games can be used to promote brands. This is done pretty successfully in Korea, and also Malibu Kahlua did it in the US. They launched this sort of bowling game app, and it had like 5 million downloads. And the good part of it is that, if you just see an ad online, like a banner ad or even a video ad, your recall of that brand is very low actually. It's you don't like, you just, when you're on Facebook, so you're just swiping through, you sometimes see a video, but you're not going to remember it after 5 minutes. So if you're interacting with it, if you're playing a game related to it, if maybe you're sharing your scores with your friend, then you're going to remember that, okay, I played a Malibu game. You're not going to forget that. So that's a big advantage that we can provide. So we're looking to partner in these sort of ways with companies.
Cool. So what is the toughest thing running a business in India? Well, you run a business worldwide, but
no, but there are a lot of tough things. So especially for me, it was a sort of a reverse culture shock when I came back from the US, because I never worked in India before, and there's a very high level of unprofessionalism in India, which is a bit surprising when you first get to it. So. Initially, we were actually making a sort of product, like physical product, card game. So then when we're going to people to sort of get quotes or anything, like to get the work done, it was all the standard, the quality of work was very low. Like you have to supervise about like 3 or 4 times more than you would normally. I'll give you an example, right? So we had this card game called Astra. So that's the book. We're having a book coming out on it by Penguin at the end of this year. So Astra, we actually went to card makers in India, and they said we'll do everything fine, and I said okay, whenever you're producing it, I can come and do the quality check, but they didn't call me. And then it came out like all the sides, the borders were all messed up. Like it wasn't a line in the center. It was all like everywhere, right? And then one of my friends wanted to take the idea to Thailand, because they also have Ramayana as their core mythology. So for Thailand, they have, you can import from China very easily with less tax. So we approached this Chinese company to produce the cards. We didn't do any oversight, we didn't go to China, nothing, and it came out absolutely perfect. So that's the difference. It's a big thing to get used to.
Definitely, I'm still getting used to it. Another thing, you run a business with your brother. How does it work? Like, do you guys ever have a fight or
We
like
always have
differences
fights.
in opinion?
So, we're both very strongly opinionated
Yeah.
people. So yeah, initially it was a bit tricky understanding how both of us
I
work.
bet, yeah.
Because he works in a very structured way. Like he has he put 5 deadlines on himself every day, even if there's no real deadline.
Oh, wow.
And so initially he wanted me to work that way, and I'm like a little bit unstructured way of working. So
Yeah.
it was hard to get used to it. But we understand the base idea. We get each other very fast. I think that's a hard part because if you're doing management or you have like an idea or something you want to go towards, or even discuss the pros and cons of something, it's very good if you have somebody who immediately gets the direction you're going in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just sort of spend so much time explaining it or understanding what is the core thing. So if you understand it very fast, you can reject it very fast, or you can go towards it very fast. So I think that really helps.
Yeah. And you guys grew up together, so you probably understand each other better.
Yeah, but there's a 6-year age difference, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's a big age.
So last question is, what is your ambition and aspiration for your company in the next 10 years?
Well, next 10 years is a very long time for a startup to think, but
Next 5 years.
no, definitely what we're trying is that in the next 1 or 2 years we want to have the biggest library of interactive educational content in any app in the world. Currently, I would say our app is about 3rd biggest library. So definitely that's one thing we want to do. Other than that, we would like to have relationships with publishers. So our current app is being published by Nazara Games, and so we want to make more games or different types of experiences which can be published as well. So that's basically what we want to do. So in about 5 years, maybe we'll have 5 or 6 properties. Also could have some tie-ins with TV shows or comics or things like that. That's why even Super School, if you see the app, we have focused a lot on having the same characters repeating. So that's the idea, that not just it's a utility for parents, but once a kid starts using it, and if they like the characters, it can be spun off into toys or other types of content.
Okay. Yeah. I just came up with another question. So you are very familiar with Japan and Japanese people. Do you have anything you want to work with Japanese companies or?
Well, I think Japanese companies are probably the most creative out there. So I think mobile gaming. So I remember last time I was in Japan, it was really weird for me that the only ads on TV I saw were vehicle ads, like car ads, and mobile gaming ads. So that seems to be the whole Japanese economy. I think nowadays even animation companies in Japan are struggling. So I feel like opening up a new market in India is a very good opportunity for them. I think one company tried it with Nihodo Media. They've made a company, sort of a bridge project between Japan and India. And I think more sort of these projects can work really well because, if you're making animation one of the biggest markets, of course in Japan they target adults, but in generally traditionally animation has targeted kids as well. And India has more kids than China, US and Indonesia combined. So I think it's a big market opportunity which is sort of missing right at this moment. So it would be great to work with some companies to collaborate on doing not just games but different types of content and
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for coming. It was very interesting to know all about your dreams and how you. Well, thank you for watching this video. Please like,